This is Rock and Roll English. Real people, real English. Here's your host, Martin Johnston.
Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Rock and Roll English, episode number 221, baby. Oh yeah, this is kind of the first official episode where I am now obviously a father. If you didn't know that, then start following Rock and Roll English on Facebook and Instagram. So sorry for the last podcast that came out a couple of days late. Things were obviously a bit crazy then, but now things are kind of getting back to some kind of normality, although I don't think I will ever go back to what in my mind was normality, but never mind. In today's episode, I speak to Clarification Charlie, yes, she is back, about the early days of parenting, because also Clarification Charlie just had a baby, her second baby, so she is obviously a real expert. There is lots of rock and roll vocabulary, some of which I forgot to mention in the podcast, and I think it's because I was tired, because as you can imagine at the moment, I'm sleeping less, let's say. So when I had this conversation with Clarification Charlie, maybe my mind wasn't so active and I didn't notice some of the RnR vocab, but I do speak about it all at the end. So make sure you listen to the end of the podcast, and then you can go and find the vocabulary at rockandrollenglish.com/221. And if you're in the family, the Rock and Roll English family that is, just ask me in the Facebook group if you have any questions. But here is the conversation. I will speak to you again at the end. In the meantime, happy listening. Clarification Charlie, how are you today?
I'm very well, thank you, Martin.
You're not going to ask me? Thanks. Very polite. Conversations normally work like this. Like what, you ask a question, the other person asks you a question. Have you forgotten how conversations work?
Yes, sorry. It's because we've just been having a chat. Yes, how are you, Martin? How are you?
Always fantastic, always fantastic. Although you did mention something that I spoke about recently on a podcast. It is strange that when I ask you how you are, we have been speaking already for like 20 minutes. So it is a bit strange to ask someone, how are you, after 20 minutes?
Yeah, sorry.
Never mind. Anyway, Clarification Charlie, how do we usually start the show?
With a review.
Do you think we have a review?
Yes.
Unfortunately not, which is a shame, because this is going to be a joyous podcast, a happy podcast. So we're starting off not brilliantly, but the only way is up, as they say. The only way
exactly
is up. So obviously, as you know, we have both recently had babies.
Yes, congratulations.
Yep, you too. Although I didn't actually have the baby.
Yeah.
Just in case anyone's wondering what happened. So I thought today we could just, talk about stuff you need to think about for when that baby comes, the day of the birth. Okay, just in case anyone's listening, lots of things I didn't know. And just give some advice. So the first point I've got here is be prepared. You get those bags ready, get those by the door. Yeah, did you have them ready?
I did. I had my bag of snacks as well. I was always recommended to have a bag of snacks.
You know what? On that point, this is exactly what I was actually about to mention. So we had all the bags ready. And then Mrs. RnR had prepared a list as well, just of things just to not forget, that was on the door, post-it note on the door, and it said like bags, baby documents, all of these things. And I added to the bottom of that list digestive biscuits.
Classic. No, they always tell us here to pack a bag of snacks. They're like, get sugary treats, high energy snacks.
Okay, so they didn't mention that to us here, but obviously I just took the initiative there and thought I need some kind of snack, because here they keep you in for like 3 days, and I thought, hospital food, what kind of snacks are they going to be providing? So I thought I'll bring a whole pack of digestive biscuits,
nice,
and then I can just munch on them the whole time.
Yeah, just plain digestive biscuits, though.
Well, I did think maybe I should go for something else, but I recently had bought them from the supermarket. I treated myself actually, because they're quite expensive over here, because they're like imported food. And every time I go to the supermarket, I think, I would like those digestives, but they're pretty expensive. But I thought this time, you know what? I'm going to push the boat out. A nice term there to spend a lot of money. I'm going to buy the digestive biscuits. And then I thought, if the baby arrives now, I'm taking those babies.
I love it. A taste of Britain with you. Taste of England in the hospital.
That was exactly it. So another thing to know for this whole experience, if you're thinking of going through it, especially for the women, is it's painful. I always knew it was painful, but I thought it was kind of like paper cut painful, which it's painful for like a couple of minutes, because in the films it doesn't look so bad. They have the baby and a few minutes later everything's fine, but as it happens, it's not actually like that, is it?
No, there's often there's a build, and then obviously the main event then, which in itself
what a wonderful way to describe it, the main event.
Excruciating. And then the aftermath as well, which actually gets worse. So the more children you have, you get after pains as well, and that becomes worse the more children you have.
Okay.
I didn't notice it with my first child, but I definitely noticed it with my second child.
Interesting. Did not know about these after pains. So with baby RnR, when she arrived, so we got to the hospital, and then once the moment came, that once the main event, as you so eloquently, that's a difficult word for me. They're more than two syllables. They're always difficult. Eloquently described it as that was approaching. Obviously you need to go then to what's known as the delivery room, where the baby comes. And then at that point, they then said to me, "You can't go," to me. And I was like, what? So then I had to separate myself from Mrs. RnR, which was, that was quite bad.
That's horrible.
Yeah, because, she was in quite a bit of pain at this point. And then they said to me, "No, you can't go." So then I got some messages. The doctor was actually sending me messages and then said, like, the baby's here. So I was really happy. And then when they brought Mrs. RnR back, they said she's coming back now. And I was waiting in this room, and I thought, it's going to be like an emotional moment, like in a film. We're going to hug each other. And then I saw her, I was crying, and then I thought, this is going to be a wonderful moment. And she just said to me, "We are never having any more children again." And I was like, all right, okay.
Yeah, I know that feeling. Yeah, after we had our first, I was adamant. I think I was adamant for about the first 3, 4, 5 months. I was just like, never again. And they were like, because all they say is, "Oh, you forget the pain and it's wonderful." I was like, I'm never forgetting, never. And I didn't for months and months and months. But then, yeah.
But in the end, you did forget. But
in the end, I did. And I did forget, and I did do it again.
But now you have been reminded again of what that's like.
Yeah, and it's just as painful second time round. But quicker.
Okay, that's quicker. Good. It's over. Like a paper cut again, as I described it as initially. Just a quick paper cut. Quick
paper cut. Anything from sort of 5 to 18 hours long, whatever it might be for you.
Just a long paper cut.
Yes,
okay,
exactly.
So something else I then noticed. So after the baby was born, we spent these 3 days in hospital, which was actually really good because you don't have to think about anything about the house or washing or cleaning. Although it was a bit like being in, I described it as family prison because we were locked in this one tiny room, but it wasn't so bad. And then when we left, I basically just forgot how to do all basic things. We got in the car and I was like, fuck, I don't remember how to drive. What the fuck are we supposed to do? We actually needed some petrol.
Yeah. Oh, God.
And I was like, oh, fuck. And here in Italy, I'm pretty sure they don't do this in the UK. The last time I had a car, they certainly didn't. You can actually pay extra and someone puts the petrol in the car for you, but that means the petrol is more expensive. And as you can imagine, I, before this day, had never used that service in my life because I thought, I'm not paying more money for petrol just for someone else to put the petrol in the car. But when we were driving back, I was like, fuck it, I don't care how much this petrol costs. Like, I'm too scared to get out of the car. I don't know how to like function anymore. I don't know how to drive. I don't know how to like pay money. I don't know anything anymore.
Well done. You got through.
Exactly. Got through it. Survived.
It is very strange, I think, when you walk through your kind of front door and then suddenly it's like your life before is still there in front of you, but you've obviously got a baby with you as well. Yeah. It's just like, this is just weird. Like, so when we came back from having our first, we picked up our dog, obviously Hugo.
This is a good point. Who looks after the dog when you go into labour?
Parents-in-law, they looked after, obviously, Felicity when I went into labour this time round, which was, I was what we say induced. So my baby did not want to come on its own. So it had to be forced along after being 2 weeks past its due date. So I had to go into hospital. And they thought it'd be over in like a day or two. I was actually in for 5 days because this baby really did not want to come out. And so my poor mother-in-law had not only my daughter, but also my dog this entire time.
Does she like dogs? Because if that happened to me, so one day, let's say baby RnR grows up, she has a baby, and she says to me, can you take care of my child and my dog whilst I go and have this child? I would be like, look, I love you a lot as a daughter, but not enough to take care of a dog for 5 days.
Yes, she does. She has dogs as well. So it was fine. It was fine. But no, sorry. The point I was making was on our way back from our first, we had to pick up our dog. And then we went for a dog walk, which was really strange. Something we'd done every day for like 6 years. And then suddenly we were doing it, but with a baby. It felt very odd.
Very odd, I can imagine.
Yeah.
So one of the things you said there, so you're in hospital for 5 days. You then have to deal with hospital food, which is not the best. So we had this, and another thing in where we were, they were very stingy with water. So remember, stingy is when there's like the opposite of generous, let's say. And we kept having to ask, and no one would give us any bottles of water. And then someone gave us finally 2 bottles of water. And then another nurse came. So I thought, right, I'm going to ask for some more water because they don't know that I've already got these. So in this point, I had hidden these bottle of waters like down the side of the bed. And then I asked another nurse and said, can we have 2 bottles of water? And she said, yeah, brought them. And then she said, I'll change the sheets of your bed. And I thought, fuck, the other water's down there now. Like, she's going to find that. I was absolutely shitting my pants. When she was cleaning the bathroom, I quickly hid the water in my bag. And honestly, I felt like a criminal. I felt like I was like, I had drugs on me or something like that. It was horrific.
Oh, no, see, the food actually wasn't too bad. Where we were, but also within the hospital there's quite a few shops. So there's an M&S,
like a shopping centre.
Yeah, there's like a Marks and Spencer's, which does very nice food. So you can go and buy. You obviously buy it, so you can do that. But the food they provided actually was fine. But when I was having my first daughter, there was a really nice like deli. Like a sandwich deli. So my husband had spotted this on his way in. He was like, oh, I've seen a really good deli. Like they do really nice sandwiches. I'm going to go get one of those. And with my first daughter, it took a little while. And so he was with me like the first day, and he was upset because when he finally went down, the deli was shut. So he was very, very frustrated at this.
Should have brought some digestive biscuits with him.
Yeah, he should have brought digestive biscuits. He should have. The grapes that I'd brought on the Haribo wasn't cutting it for him. And then my labour continued on until the next day. And so he was very happy that the deli had now opened again. And so he did manage to go downstairs and finally get that deli sandwich that he so desperately craved for those like first 36 hours of me being in hospital.
Fantastic.
So yeah, he was brilliant. He loved it.
I'm sure
he
that
still
was...
talks about that sandwich to this day.
That's what I was about to say. I'm sure that was the best memory of his first child being born, was the sandwich that he got from the deli.
The highs and lows. The deli was closed and then it carried on, so the deli was open again. He got his sandwich. He was very happy.
I'm so happy that story has a happy ending. Okay, yeah. not the happy ending that your daughter was born, but that Mr. Clarification Charlie got his sandwich. Yeah. Okay, and everyone was happy. So another thing that basically you need to know when you have a baby is what to do with the baby, because after baby RnR was born, they then kept her downstairs for like an hour or something doing some tests, and then brought her up, and this guy just came in and just literally gave her to us and said, okay, now try breastfeeding and changing nappies, and then walked out. And I was like, sorry, what? Like, are you not going to show me how to do this? Oh, it was, and then what I actually did is, like, because also Mrs. RnR had no idea, so then had my phone on me, went on YouTube, tutorial, how to breastfeed, how to change a nappy. So that's how we learned, basically.
I know. What would you have done before Google?
Oh, that's what I was thinking. Before smartphones, what would we have done then? Absolute nightmare.
We always thought it was crazy. So in England, they're quite quick to just let you go. So you have the baby. So like after I had my second child, to be fair, like I had the baby and I was out of hospital like 4 or 5 hours later.
Oof,
and
wow.
Yeah, quick. And with my first, I was out the same day. So I had her at 4 a.m. and at 7 o'clock I was allowed to leave that evening. And so they kind of let us go, and we just both found it quite strange. So like they gave us our hospital notes and said, right, off you go, like see you later, kind of have a nice time. And we both kind of left and we're like, so no one's gonna check, like we're just allowed to leave with this baby. Like,
exactly.
We're just gonna put it in the car, like no one's checking anything. They're just letting us leave with this baby. It's very strange.
Yeah, I was thinking like they need to give you some kind of instructions manual.
Yeah.
I think, does this not come with instructions, this thing, this child?
No, it doesn't.
So that was very scary. And another thing that's very scary is just the anxiety. So especially those first few nights, I think I checked that she was still alive about 50 million times, of like, yep, still alive. Like 5 seconds later, yep, okay, still alive now, still alive now, still alive now. Oh, it was awful.
I actually went through that just not last night, but the night before, because ever since I've had my son, he hasn't slept for longer than 2 hours, day or night. It's just 2 hours, wake up, 2 hours, wake up. So I'm feeding every night, every 2 hours, and in the day, every 2 hours. And then the other night, it was 5 hours, and I woke up at a kind of normal 2 hour, and I realised that he wasn't awake, he wasn't crying. My instant thought was he died. I was like, he's dead. And I was there.
That is the instant thought, isn't it? Always.
And I checked. I was like, I know he's still breathing. Went back to sleep. 2 hours later, I was like, oh, he's definitely dead this time. He was still alive. And then he woke up 5 hours. But it's that whole... I've been craving a longer amount of sleep this entire 8 weeks. And I finally get it. And my instant thought was that he died. Awful.
I mean, I'm laughing, but I've had this sensation many times already. In fact, I was thinking about this before, and like I'd heard things in the past, you know, of like good parents, bad parents. Now I don't think about that. I just think that it's an achievement to keep the baby alive. Like if
massively.
And that's it. It doesn't matter if you're a good or bad parent. If the baby is still alive, in my eyes, it's a success.
Well, that's quite funny because I think in one of our last podcasts, Martin, you asked me about parenting tips or something. And I was like, oh, well, I've managed to keep her alive for 3.5 years. And you laughed at that comment. You were like, oh, well done, keeping her alive. And it's like, yeah.
Well, things have changed. Okay, I'm a new person now because now I do realise that is a massive achievement.
Yeah, hugely.
So well done for keeping your first baby alive for nearly 4 years.
Yeah.
So That is quite an achievement.
Thanks.
So on this nappy changing as well,
Yeah.
obviously I'd never changed nappy before this, and I hadn't really thought about it that much, but I hadn't really thought about the fact that babies shit when you're trying to change the nappy, and that is just, oh God,
Strange.
because like I already was having difficulty, and then I thought, right, I've kind of got this now, I kind of understand what I'm doing, but then once that shit comes out whilst you're changing it, I think it was Mike Tyson, the boxer, said everyone's got a plan until you get punched in the face. And it was kind of like me with this nappy. I went in there, I had a plan, I knew what was going, and then the poo come, which was the punch in the face, and then it was just like panic, and I was like, oh God. And the poo was going everywhere, like legs were going in, clothes. Luckily, Mrs. RnR was on hand to save the day, but oh God, it was a nightmare.
Yeah. Well, we've been quite fortunate with our son, but it is very common for boys as well that every time you change them, they do wee on you. So as you take off the nappy, it's something to do with the cold air rushing over. You literally, the willy goes up and the pee just like spouts out like a fountain towards you.
Like a fountain, like a beautiful fountain in Rome.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. So yeah,
I did think about that. I thought at least we haven't got a boy, because I thought, with that willy, which is a lovely way to describe a penis, basically, that could go anywhere. There's just you just don't know where that's going, do you?
No, not at all. Not at all. At least with the girls, it's
exactly.
easy. Felicity used to, my daughter used to wee quite a lot when we used to change her, but it was controlled. Whereas when this one goes, it's like you don't know where it's going.
Yeah, exactly. Although to finish on a positive, the main benefit, except obviously the love that I feel with my child, the other big benefit I've seen in the last few days is that now if I fart, and it's a silent one, and there's a bad smell, and Mrs. RnR says, "Have you farted?" then I can just say, "No, it wasn't me, it was the baby." Which is great, because now I was always a bit dubious, thinking, should I fart, because she's going to think I'm a disgusting man. But now I can just go all day, like there's no tomorrow. And then
my
just
husband's
say,
never worried about that. Plus, there's a dog to blame as well, isn't there? Half the time.
Well,
it was the dog.
You know what? I hadn't even thought about dogs farting. That's just the most disgusting thing in the world. A dog.
Our dog
farting.
doesn't. It's just my husband.
Fantastic. Well, here are some points anyway, just in case anyone does have a baby. We've covered a few. So I wouldn't say after you've listened to this podcast you are 100% prepared for all of this stuff, but it's a start. It's a start, okay?
Exactly. I feel like nothing ever really prepares you for it until it's right there.
I completely agree. Anyway, thanks as always for your time. Clarification, Charlie.
That's okay. Very welcome.
Good luck keeping the two children alive. And
thank you.
I'll see you soon.
Excellent. Look forward to it. Thanks, Martin.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, so that was me speaking to Clarification Charlie about all things parenting, let's say. Well, I don't think we covered everything about being parents, but we certainly covered a few bits of the first couple of days of becoming a parent. So let's have a look at some of that RnR vocabulary. At the beginning, I said that this is going to be a joyous podcast. That is just a lovely adjective. Joyous, something happy, a joyous podcast. But it wasn't because there was no review. So please take the time to leave me a review, because it really helps me. It helps this podcast to keep growing. And the more we get, then the more podcasts I will be able to make, because I will be able to dedicate all of my time to rock and roll English. So if you could leave me a review, that would be fantastic. And if you do, remember, please let me know, because I don't always see them. Then I used the term, I took the initiative when we were talking about snacks and how they didn't tell me to bring snacks. I just took the initiative. Think of all of that collocation. Take the initiative. So not to wait for someone to tell you, you just do it anyway. Then I spoke about my digestive biscuits, and I said I can just munch on these biscuits. So the term munch, a lovely term, just om. That is me munching. And then clarification, Charlie said, what, just plain digestive biscuits? So this word plain means with nothing else, basically, because you can have chocolate digestive biscuits or other types. These were just plain. Maybe if you get a burger at McDonald's and you just want a burger and you don't want all of the other stuff they put in it, you ask for a plain burger. And then speaking again about these digestive biscuits, I said I'm going to push the boat out and buy these digestive biscuits. So a lovely term there, to push the boat out, to spend a lot of money, to say, you know what, fuck it, I'm going to spend some money today. Then we were speaking about paper cuts. I think that's quite common, isn't it? It is painful, isn't it, the paper cut? But notice we use that term. We don't say to cut yourself with paper. We just call it a paper cut. And we were talking about all of the pain and stuff like that. And then I said, as it happens, giving birth is quite painful, isn't it? Notice that, as it happens, a lovely term there to say, in reality, it is quite painful, isn't it? Obviously, I was being sarcastic. I do know it's painful, but, well, I say I know. I don't think I can really appreciate how painful it is, because obviously I've never given birth to a child because I'm a man, just in case anyone's a bit confused. Then when we were talking about this, giving birth, clarification Charlie described it, number one, as the main event, which I thought was brilliant, like a boxing fight. And then she said it is excruciating, which is a lovely term to say extremely, extremely, extremely painful. Then she also mentioned the aftermath of the birth. So a lovely term there to say everything that happens after the birth, basically. We had the term the delivery room, which is the room where the baby is delivered, let's say, or the baby arrives, whatever you want to say. Then clarification Charlie said she was adamant that she would never have another child. So when you are adamant, you are sure, let's say, and you're telling everyone, no, it's not going to happen. We are not going to have another baby. But in the end, she did. And then she said, but it's just as painful second time round. Notice this word round at the end, something we often say there. So the second time you do it, it's just as painful second time round. Then we had the term go into labour, when I said, who looks after your dog when you go into labour? So that's the part where you start the birth, let's say. When you go into labour, that's when the birth happens, just before the main event, let's say. Then clarification Charlie said her baby arrived 2 weeks past its due date. Due date is the term we use for when the baby should arrive, the due date. Then I spoke about people being stingy with water. So when you're stingy, it's you're not generous. People are often stingy with money. That's a lovely way to describe someone that doesn't like spending money. Stingy. And then we were talking about snacks and sandwiches when clarification Charlie said her husband wanted to get a sandwich from the deli. So this is the term we use, deli. I think it actually comes from the word delicatessen. It's like a French word. Delicatessen, I think, is the word. But that's obviously too difficult for us stupid English people to pronounce. So we just call it a deli. So places where you can buy sandwiches, ham, cheese, this kind of thing. And she said the reason he bought that sandwich from the deli was because the grapes that she had bought weren't cutting it for him. So if something's not cutting it for you, it's not enough. So you need something more. You need a sandwich. And then she mentioned that in the end, he finally got the sandwich he so desperately craved. So when you crave something, it's when you really want it. They say pregnant women have cravings when they are pregnant because they want to eat certain things. And then I was talking about the nappy and how it all went wrong when baby RnR did a poo. And I said, luckily, Mrs. RnR was on hand to save the day. So when someone or something is on hand, they are right there to help you. And that's what I needed, help. Then we had the term willy, which is just a lovely way, nice way to describe penis, let's say, something you can say to a child. And then clarification, Charlie said the wee just sprouts out like a fountain, so just like flies in the air. But remember, all of this vocabulary is on the website rockandrollenglish.com/221. I will be back in a couple of weeks, so I will see you soon. I may be a father now, but I'm going to keep on rocking. So in these 2 weeks, make sure that you keep on rocking, baby.
Thanks so much for listening to Rock and Roll English. For more great content and to stay up to date, visit rockandrollenglish.com and facebook.com/rockandrollenglish. We'll catch you next time.